Welcome back, class. Thank you for joining me. Today we are going to talk about the law of cosines, which is actually already the end of our trig unit. Now, law of cosines. Now, this one is a little bit more complicated than law of sines. So really, this is a last resort. If you can use trigonometry, just basic sine, cosine, or tangent, use it. If you can't, try law of sines. If you can't do that either, if you can't find that angle-side relationship, then we're going to have to resort to law of cosines. All right. Now, the two cases that law of cosines is associated with is side, side, side. So if you have three sides, you can use law of cosines. Or if you have side, angle, side, that is another case where you would be able to use the law of cosines. Now, when I say law of cosines, what am I talking about? Well, it presents itself in three ways. However, the most common one to see is this. Now, they're all essentially the same, okay? What it's saying is this side length here, c squared equals, well, that one has to be paired with the angle that you're using, okay? So, however that happens to play out, cosine c squared, so that side and angle have to be there. Then these a's and b's, those are just the other two sides. And again, this can be used to either find an angle or find a side, depending on what you do or do not have. All right. Now again, it looks more complicated than it really is, so let's just jump into an example and I can show you the setup to this. All right. So for the side angle side case, let's look at this. Well, the dilemma that we're running into is we don't have an angle side pair, okay? Notice the C, the side we're looking for, is opposite an angle, but then we don't have any other angle side pair to try to match it with for the law of sines. So that's why we're going to use the law of cosines. All right, so here they already have it labeled for us, but we're looking for side C, and we have angle C. So that means, respectively, these are little a and little b. Those are the other side lengths that we're talking about. So here this diagram is really nice because it fits right into that equation that I just showed you. Okay? So the side that is opposite the angle we're talking about, that side is always that squared. All right, so c squared equals. Now, a squared plus b squared. So the other two side lengths squared and added up. So 8 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times those other side lengths multiplied together, and then cosine of the angle. All right, so it's kind of messy, right? A big, long thing. Now, again, if you type this in carefully, you can actually type this in all at once, all right? So if you type that whole thing into your calculator all at once, because all the numbers are on one side, 8 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 8 times 11 times cosine of 37. So if you type that in all just as I have it written, using the parentheses and all that stuff, what you're going to get is c squared is about 44.44. Now, the thing to remember though is we don't want c squared, we want c. So we're going to have to end up square rooting that so we can just get what c equals. So when you square root both sides, you get c equals 6.67. So again, in this way, the computation isn't difficult, all right? It's just typing it into the calculator and then remembering to square root it. It's more recognizing when to use this. And again, that side angle side case is a perfect opportunity to use law of cosines. Now, again, I would use law of sines if I could, because the setup for that is easier. However, if you can't make an angle side pair, that's when you have to default to the law of cosines. So let's try another one. So let's try that side angle side case again, but this time we're going to have to find C. And I apologize, this is not side angle side, this is side side side, where we're given 3 side lengths. I apologize for that typo. All right, so in this way, this time we have all 3 sides, and we need to go back and find the angle. So again, if you have 3 sides, there's no way you're making an angle side pair because you don't have any angle. Now, again, here it's already kind of nicely labeled for you, but if you're looking for angle C, that means we're using that angle. So that one side length that starts off squared on the other side of my equation has to be the side opposite it. So that 8 squared is one that I'm going to put on the opposite side. And now those other two are going to act as that A and that B. So 9 squared plus 5 squared minus 2, now you multiply those together, cosine of C. So again, what's really important here is noting whatever angle you either have or that you're looking for, the side length opposite it is always what goes on the other side. And then the other 2 side lengths just kind of fill in as is. Okay? Now, looking at this. So I need to solve for C, which means I need to get this cosine C by itself. Okay? So what that means is I'm going to have to take that 8 squared gives me 64. Well, 9 squared plus 5 squared is 106. 2 times 9 times 5 is 90. So this time, because I'm having to get that C by itself, I actually have to clean up the numbers this time. Well, that means I'm going to have to subtract off that 106 from both sides. All right, my goal is to get that cosine by itself. Now that I've done that, now I'm going to divide by negative 90. So that's going to give me 0.46 repeating equals cosine of C. Now, if I want the angle, now I have the cosine C. If I want the angle, remember, that's when we use our inverse cosine. So I have to take the inverse cosine of that answer, or of that value I just found. So my angle ends up being 62.18 degrees. So when you're looking for the angle, it gets a little bit messier. But all you have to do is a little bit of algebra. You can still end up solving for that angle. So let's do one last example to make sure we're getting this. After the hurricane, the small tree in my neighbor's yard was leaning. To keep it from falling, we nailed a 6-foot strap into the ground 4 feet from the base of the tree. We attached the strap to the tree 3.5 feet above the ground. How far from vertical was the tree leaning? All right, so here's another case. Let's see what we've got. Well, to me, it looks like we have a side-side-side relationship. And remember, side-side-side, when you have three sides, it is impossible to make an angle pair or an angle side relationship. So we're going to need law of cosine here. Now we have to look. So if this is an angle that I'm shooting for, that side, is going to be the one that I offset in my equation. Then my other two are going to be the ones that act as that A and B in my equation. So here, I'm just setting it up, all right? Just getting everything in place. Now remember, this is the case where I'm looking for that cosine C, all right? So that means I have to get everything else kind of solved for. So I'm going to get all of these to just be numbers. So 6 squared is 36. 3.5 squared plus 4 squared, I turn that into a number, just 28.25. I multiply the 2 with the 3.5 and the 4. I combine those together to give me 28. All right, so I'm just cleaning up all the numbers. I subtract that 28.25 from both sides. So 7.75 equals negative 28 cosine C. Divide by that negative 28. So I get negative 0.277 about, equaling cosine C. And again, now I have to use my inverse trig to get what C equals. So inverse trig, or inverse cosine, that answer, and I'm getting C is about 106.07 degrees, which again makes sense because we can see it should be greater than 90. So our answer is reasonable. It makes sense. All right, so there's a couple examples of how to go about using this. All right, now on the last page, this is a little graphic organizer. So it categorizes any triangle and how you would solve it. So you have a right triangle. All you have to use is Pythagorean theorem or sine, cosine, and tangent. If you have angle, angle, side, 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 angle, or angle, side, angle, whenever you can make that angle, side pair, you use the law of sines. The bottom two, side, 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 and side, angle, side, that shows you when to use law of cosines. So just a little graphic organizer so you can see, so you can study for when you take the ACT about when to use each method. Then here's a little order chart. Again, first check if it's a right triangle, boom, just use straight up trigonometry, sine, cosine, tangent. If you can make an angle side pair, law of sines. If you can't do either of those, then you have to default to law of cosines. All right, now this is the end of our unit, end of our video. So I thank you for joining me for these couple lessons on trigonometry. Please make sure you have everything written down from those previous examples and then come back to class ready to do your practice work.